G'day guys, this is just a quick little video to just inform people that there are a whole lot of videos that I did ages ago. These were collaborations with Bart Kay prior to me starting my channel and when in the early days of my channel. So I was doing a number of collaborations with Bart Kay, and now all those videos are no longer on YouTube. They are available on the Odysee platform. Let me just share my screen for a sec. Okay, so these are the ones that, so we've got the first ones, which were the Harry Serpanos part 1 to 5. And I just realized I've missed one. Damn. I'll fix that. So there are 5 videos there. And then after that, there is so that was the first. I sort of introduced myself. You'll probably notice that I have a different style nowadays compared to that style. But obviously, it was the early days. I didn't really have a lot of experience with social media, and the style is slightly different. I don't know whether some people will enjoy it or not, but there's a lot of information in it. Don't get me wrong. In all these videos, there's heaps of information. So the initial series, which is the Harry Serpanos part 1 to 5, that really covers my cardiovascular issues. It covers a lot of things about myself, my journey through what brought me to the carnivore diet eventually, and the in-between stages, people that had an influence on me, things that I looked into. So I give a bit of a background, things that people may not know about me or may not know about what got me to where I'm at currently. So people that want to find out more about Harry Serpanos, his journey, his health journey, those 5 early videos will be insightful for those people. Then we sort of cover the Mediterranean diet. Now, obviously, it covers the blue zones, a number of things that we touch on that are related to the sort of things that get recommended, and that the sort of so-called Mediterranean diet is just basically a myth. There are a lot of variations throughout the Mediterranean basin, and it's not exactly what most people think a Mediterranean diet is. The so-called Mediterranean diet is pretty much an academic fabrication. That's what it is. Anyway, then we have other videos. So that's a series of videos that I did. They're slightly shorter in duration, but they cover a couple of subject matters. One is on the chimps, and that really goes into how carnivorous the chimps are and how researchers looking into them have been startled because they've actually put inside areas where certain groups of chimps are cameras and stuff like that in the trees to monitor them, to see really how do they live, what is a chimp's life like, really, not what certain people think they are. Here's a banana little monkey. Obviously, they'll eat anything that you actually hand them, but what do they prioritize? So that's really important, and you'll actually see within that video, you'll be insightful about that. Meat is very important in their diet, and not only very important, but even though they've got a cecum, they've got the ability to ferment. Even the mothers, are focused on other things other than things like fruit. Yes, You know who you are, Paul, don't you? Yes. Anyway, then the next one after that is methylation. That was, I think, had to do with Goji Man, something he actually said, which was a bit ridiculous. And Bart asked me to come on and do the sort of the simplified version, so could be explained to people out there. The third one there, some people may find interesting. This is an area where we're looking at brain, the brain's ability to oxidize fat, and what two different sort of hypotheses that exist out there, and me bringing to the party certain information, insights that actually question the belief that just the brain just prefers ketones or prefers sugar, and can't really, is limited in using beta oxidation, basically using fats. And so I sort of discuss this with Bart and go into, we look at both pieces of research, which I actually provided two competing pieces of literature. So one I cover, and the other one I asked Bart to cover, and he actually went through it, and then allowed, and then I sort of proceeded from there to put my own sort of analysis of the sort of literature that we were reviewing, and why I thought that the likelihood that we have a limitation in beta oxidation doesn't really seem to play out from some experimental evidence that was, that existed earlier in the 70s from an academic from Harvard University. But you'll have to go and watch it to get that information. Then there was a live Q&A that I did with Neil, who's a guy from Ireland. So that was an interesting sort of live together. And then there's a six-part series that follows after that, and it sort of goes into the early human diet, the paleo to modern diet, the methane busting nonsense, that research that I talk about. Well, this actually shows the actual study that I'd actually downloaded back then ages ago, because I had access, and I still do, because sort of I have like a corporate membership to Geoscience Australia, so I've got access to certain research that I can look at, and this was basically on the methane, the isotopes and stuff like that, showing exactly where it's coming from, and it's not basically from cow farts, let's put it that way. That is declining, and the information is there to myth bust that. The Titsmani people, that's another interesting group of South American tribal people. Some of them do have moved into agricultural areas, so it's, anyway, I'll leave that for you guys to actually look at. Then the modern vegan movement, I go into that, and some conclusions and all that I go into as well. Then the last of the other video too, there are some others, but I couldn't actually find them. So these are the only three that I was able to find. He may have actually listed them on one of the other channels, I don't know. So these were the ones that I was able to get. One is the chimpanzees in the savannah area, how they adapt and downregulate some of their sort of more less empathetic genes. So it's interesting, it's insightful. I'll let people actually watch it and see the insights into that. And then I also cover 5G and EMFs, and look at actual research, not what opinions of people say. Now, I do still believe that certain frequencies, but that's all frequencies, not only from 5G, 4G, 3G, the wiring in your home, all these non-native EMFs do have an effect on our circadian rhythms. That's really what the problem is. It's circadian rhythms and proper sleep and all these sleep cycles and all that. That's a big thing, guys. You know, poor sleep, stress, poor diet, and sedentary. You know, these 4 elements, and 5, you could say, earthing. All these elements are important. Any one of them is really neglected, you're going to have certain health problems. So I'm not actually claiming that EMFs are good for your non-native EMFs, but the frequencies that we have in that directly come from space are much higher in the terawatt range, not in the gigahertz range, and are far more damaging and all that. So the key things that we're looking at, heat shock proteins being activated and all these other things, that's important, and I cover exactly that and demystify. There's a guy that actually has a different opinion than me. He turns up at that, he can't, and it was supposed to be a debate or a discussion presenting. He really just nodded along and then went away and actually made a whole lot of accusations when he had the opportunity to argue with me, but he didn't. Then there was some lady that actually came on Bart's channel that actually tried to say that you can get everything from milk, which is nonsense. Milk as a source of a number of nutrients is great, but it's not, but it lacks a number of things. So I cover that and explain why you still need meat, and the sort of that to argue that you only need, you can do away with meat and just focus on milk is completely and utterly nonsense. And I go through that and explain some of that sort of stuff. So that's the sort of things. I'll put those links. They'll be in the description of this video, and it will give you a bit of an insight as well. Now, let me just unshare that. Now, I did make some comments, I think, on the first, these are the earlier ones. These are quite a few years back, before I was aware of the Conley information, and I was more influenced by Harper. He's another academic that, views the whole greenhouse thing as nonsense. But he does believe that, carbon dioxide does have an effect as a greenhouse gas. And I sort of, yes, at the time I sort of felt yes, but it's, the effect is so minor, it's more or less irrelevant. But I was still on, you could say, on the fence slightly. I wasn't completely, off the fence. Now I am completely. I mean, it's just illogical, because even if you go with the worst case scenario, which is we contribute 10%, that at a 400 odd percent is about 42 parts per million at max. But that's actually stating that we're also, what about, carbon sequestration? That means ruminant animals and vegetation, all that actually sequesters carbon back into the soils. We're not taking that into account. We're only taking the emissions. So once you take that, it probably falls quite substantially more. And at worst, let's say close to 5%, you're talking about 20, 25 parts per million, let's say, for argument's sake. Even at 25 parts per million, if you were to have like a 5-fold increase, like 5 industrial revolutions and all the progress from that, that's not going to happen. But let's say, for argument's sake, at most you'd get it up to slightly over 500 parts per million. It's not catastrophe. It's nothing. Because even at those levels, we've had 2000 and whatever in the past, completely and utterly irrelevant. The world didn't end. We're carbon life forms. Carbon is, energy. Sorry, it's building blocks for bodies of all organisms on this planet. You take away the carbon, there is no life. You have to be a crackpot to believe that sort of nonsense. But the small amount. Now, Harper's view was that if you double each time logarithmically, like go from 400 to 800 to 1600, that's how you get 1 degree. Now, if natural emissions, let's say, are stable, that means the natural emissions, that is the gassing from the oceans and the absorption back into the oceans at night, and all the other sort of, you could say, all the other involved cycles, if they are constant, which I don't believe they are, I believe there are venting in the deep oceans that are happening from volcanic underwater volcanoes. There are so many sources and so many other elements that are absorbing that are not taken properly into account. And we're actually noticing, even NASA has noticed, the greening of the planet. Even a lot of areas which were arid areas and desert type areas that are greening faster than they were predicting or thought. It surprised them. So the sequestering of CO2 in different types of areas is still not fully understood. You know, these people are making predictions and they can't even work out those details out. That is how flawed this whole propaganda is, because that's what it is. But at the same time, you know, I was still milling through that. But once and I knew about the urban island heat, the sort of heat island effect, the urban heat island effect, as it was called back in the 70s, that, certain areas which, when they urbanize, they become warmer, hotter, they hold onto heat into the evening. And so, that skews those sort of averages. So that's a problem with that data. When you take all that data out and you just look at, you don't see this increase. It's sort of flatline. So it just doesn't follow the propaganda, so to speak. So it's really, keep that in mind. Don't hate me for it. That was a while ago where I was still milling it through my head. Like a lot of us, it's not a field of mine, so I wasn't looking into it. But the more I look into it, I realize that, it's just not, the probability is just not there. Because even if we were putting stuff in, we're only at worst 5% excess. Even if we were to double, triple, increase it by 5-fold, that would mean we're talking about a population now of 25 billion people to 30 billion people to get to those levels without any efficiencies either. It's not going to happen. Actually, I'm more worried about a decline in the population, a collapse in the population, because of all the kibble eaters and the sort of Pottinger's cat effect, the way we've really harmed ourselves with inappropriate things that we've been doing for the last couple of decades, and how the globalists, yes, it's part of a plan. Yes, I think I did that. Yes, I should have done the J. Dyer sort of thing. Yes, I would have been more convincing. But anyway, so that's that part. So I hope you get something out of it. There's a lot of information. There's a lot of things that I probably haven't touched on for some time that you may find interesting. You can always come back to this video and comment and ask questions. It helps the algorithm. Remember that, kiddies. It helps the algorithm, and it helps Uncle Harry actually get more likes. And I've noticed the likes haven't been very heavy recently. What is wrong with you people? You're supposed to like your uncles. God, all that damn brainwashing at school. Hate your parents, hate your uncles, unless they're actually cross-dressing. Yes. Anyway, you're not going to see that from me. I might put an animal outfit. That's as far as I'll go for a laugh. Anyway, I think I can get away with that. I think God would forgive me for a bit of humor. Anyway, so that's pretty much it. So I hope people do watch that and those videos and support Bart Kay on that platform as well. I do have some videos, but I haven't really kept it up to date. I will get back into it. It's in bringing that up to date as well. So at some point, I think I need to contact the administrator and find out whether I can actually try and upload stuff a bit easier, because currently manually doing one after another is not doable, and I don't know whether they'll allow me to or not. So it's still up in the air. We'll see what happens. But anyway, that's pretty much it. Sayers.